Hello everyone and welcome to my channel Meet Me in the Center. My name is Andrew. Shadow, my cat, is not on the bed sleeping behind me, as you can see. I actually just fed him, so he's out having his supper at the moment, and we'll have to see if he comes back later for a nap. If you're new to this channel, welcome. I'm glad you found me. Hopefully you stay and listen to the whole video, and maybe you learn something, maybe you don't. If you have seen some of my videos before, welcome back. I'm getting tongue twisted. Welcome back. I'm glad to have you back. Today we're going to be talking about facts versus opinions and this idea of your truth. I think this is an important topic to talk about because we are starting to bleed the ideas of facts and opinions together, and really that's not what should be happening. In fact, that's a lot of where your truth comes into. But so I'm just going to start with some information about facts and opinions, use some examples. And then, like I said, I'm going to talk about the idea of my truth. So a fact is a statement that can be verified or proven true, whereas an opinion is just an expression of judgment or belief about something. Facts rely on observation or research, while opinion is based on assumption or a personal view. Fact is an objective reality, whereas opinion is subjective, and it's generally interpreted from fact. Facts can be verified with the help of evidence or statistics. Now, opinions can be supported by evidence, but opinions are not evidence on their own. Facts explain what actually happened, whereas opinions represent a perception about what happened. So one important feature of facts is that they are universal, and they do not differ from person to person, whereas every human being has a different opinion on a particular subject. So it varies significantly. Facts can change anybody's opinion, but opinions can't change fact. Some people would like them to be able to, but unfortunately that is not the case. Or fortunately, I think in this case, that is not the case. Facts are real information. So they can't really be challenged. Well, they can be challenged with other fact if there are a few different, like say for instance, there's an old study that claims, 1 + 1 = 3, and a new study comes out that says, no, we found that 1 + 1 = 2. That's the only way it can be challenged. But if we're talking about opinion, anything that comes out any opinion can be debated, can be challenged, can be potentially countered with another opinion. And facts are shown with unbiased words, whereas opinions are expressed with biased words. So what are some examples of these types of words? Well, for fact, it's words like verified, peer-reviewed, statistics, proven, confirmed, discovered, demonstrated, evidence, etc. Opinions, words like this are think, I think this, I feel, believe, claim, argue, always, never, good, better, best, should not, in my point of view, in my experience. Those are all biased towards your interpretation of something. And so opinions can be expressed and discussion can take place over your opinion versus someone else's, but neither opinion can be proven right or wrong. And I think a lot of people have completely missed the point on this for the last, quite a few years at this point. So just because you have a different opinion than someone else doesn't mean they're wrong, you're right. Neither of you can be right because it's an opinion. It's just your interpretation. So there's no right or wrong when it comes to interpretation. And also, I would like to point out here that just because you have more of a socially approved opinion does not make you right, whereas the other person would be wrong. It doesn't put you on any sort of moral high ground. It's just your interpretation of the facts. So, as an example, just to show that socially approved opinions can change over time, in ancient Greece, it was common that a man would take a boy just about to come into adulthood under his wing to help him become a man. The man, by doing this, would give the boy contacts that he knew in whatever type of work he was going to try to get into. And he would basically teach him how to be a proper man in Greek society. The man got sex out of this, essentially. So we're talking about a child. Now, it was completely socially approved and socially accepted back then, but now, obviously, we would have a big problem with this happening. But who's to say in, 10, 50, 100, 1,000 years that we right now won't be considered barbaric and disgusting for things that we're doing, just like we would find what happened in ancient Greece disgusting, in the example I just gave you. So, socially approved, like I said, again, it's just the norm of the time, and that will change over time. So just because you feel you're right now doesn't mean you will be right when we look back into history. And actually, to be fair, I don't necessarily like looking back into history and judging history because, they had very different situations. And again, that it was their opinion that was the right thing to do, whereas it is our opinion now that is the wrong thing to do. So which of us is right? Well, neither of us, because it's an opinion. It's an interpretation of our surroundings, of fact. So the tricky part of all of this between fact and opinion is when people use those signal words that I talked about earlier to pretend that their opinions are facts. This is where common sense has to come in. You have to be able to kind of listen to something or read something and say, oh no, this is just their opinion, this is not fact. Because a lot of people are doing that right now. A lot of people have whatever opinion. The earth is flat. That's a good one for one of the things that's going on today with the flat earth idea. That's their opinion. They'll claim it's fact, but it really isn't. It's just an opinion. It's interpretation of what they've seen in pictures, what they've seen. It's basically an interpretation of an observation. And so that makes it fall under opinion and definitely not fact. Another thing I'd like to warn is don't let your confirmation bias convince you that a convenient opinion is proven fact. So what I mean by that is, let's say you believe something. It's your opinion that God exists. I'll use that as an example. It's your opinion that God exists. Okay. Someone else brings up an opinion of something, and you're like, yeah, you're right, because I believe that too, so it must be true. Well, no, you're both just having an opinion on that, on God existing. And that's all I mean by that. Just because lots of people believe something does not make it reality. It just means that a lot of people believe in it. So there are some tests online you can take if you want to. I'll leave the link to the website in the description box below. It's just it gives you 10 statements, and you have to decide whether they're fact or opinion. It's a good way to tell whether you can, again, use your common sense to determine which is which. All right, and that brings me to the idea of your truth. I use quotation points because it's not your truth. But anyway, so your truth, by definition, is a subjective opinion interpreted by you with all of your biases. So does that make it a fact, or does that make it an opinion? If someone says to me in an argument or debate, which has been happening more and more often these days, that, well, my truth is this, I usually stop them and force them to define what my truth means. And what's hilarious to me is that usually as they define it, they're defining opinion. And so they'll say something like, well, that's just how I see blank. To which I would generally respond, yes, so you mean that's your opinion on that? It's not fact because you see it that way. It's opinion because you see it that way. But anyway. And actually, I generally won't continue to talk to someone or debate someone or argue with someone if they say something like that and they won't acknowledge that it is in fact their opinion, because basically what they're trying to do is they're trying to warp reality. And there are 3 reasons why they would warp it like this. First, they're either pretending or possibly even fooling themselves that their opinions mean more than they actually do. They want to be right, and so obviously their opinions are fact because, that way they're right. And I know some people who have done this on purpose to try and, twist the argument. And I know some people that honestly just are fooling themselves into thinking that, yeah, I'm right because I know this. I also think it could be an excuse to allow them to not have to find out what the truth is. So if you believe something and that's your truth, then why would you ever need to know the actual truth? Which to me is very weak and very lazy. But again, that's just my opinion. That's not a fact. And lastly, they have looked for the facts and they can't find any evidence to back their opinion. So instead, in their head of realizing that maybe their opinion is flawed in some way, they basically create this brand new reality around them, the idea of their truth, because they can't deal with the fact that maybe they have a flawed opinion in the first place. Now, technically, you can't have a flawed opinion. I know but I think there are such things as weaker and stronger opinions. I think that maybe that's the better word to use than flawed. Weaker opinion. And the way I define weaker and stronger opinions is, have you looked at the facts? Have the facts led to your interpretation and your opinion? Essentially, that's how I would just define weaker versus stronger. So for stronger, you've looked at the reality of the situation. You've looked at the facts. You're like, okay, so from that, I believe this. Whereas a weak opinion would be, oh, well, I just believe this because I believe it. Another good way, whether you have a strong opinion or a weak opinion, would be whether you talk to other people, whether you hear their opinions. because if you talk to enough people, your opinions can be swayed. Facts can't be, obviously. They are what they are, but opinions can be swayed. So if someone who doesn't have your opinion talks to you about it, and you're like, oh, they actually have good points, at that point, you either look at your opinion and you decide, okay, does mine still have merit, or is theirs like a stronger opinion, and should I change my opinion to that? I have done that multiple times over the years on a whole bunch of different topics. Just recently, I've been watching a lot of other people's opinions online about abortion, for instance. And I have honestly flip-flopped on abortion a whole bunch of times. At first, I had a weak opinion because I hadn't really looked at all the facts, and I hadn't heard a lot of people's opinions. And honestly, abortion isn't something I've had to deal with in the real world. That's another way that you can get stronger opinions versus weaker ones. So if you just have an opinion on something and you've never actually had to deal with that, so like for instance for me, I'll use the abortion one. I thought, well, it should be up to a woman. I knew they're to choose what they do with their own body, but there obviously should be limitations to that, like when it can happen and so on and so forth. And because I never have had to deal with that, where I've ever gotten a girlfriend pregnant, and we've had to think about that. And I mean, I'm not a woman myself either, so neither of those things have really happened in my life. So it's hard to have a strong opinion when you haven't gone through all of that. So it's okay to have weak opinions, but I think really if you want to, if you have a weak opinion, you should be trying to learn. You should be trying to learn, number one, the facts that surround your opinion, and number two, and try to have real world examples that you have dealt with, because that will help form your opinions as well. But anyway, that's all I wanted to talk about for today. If you like this video, hit the like button, leave a comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Until then, have a good day.